Dum bum ba dee dum dee dum dee da da diddly dum ba da dee dum da 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 dee da da dee dum da da bum 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 bum. Hello. Some friends of mine were in a production of Oklahoma last week, and I have not been able to get tunes from it out of my head. It's very irritating indeed, but there we go. Long time no see, as one would say if I did ever see you, but as I don't see you, nor do I know who you are, I'm sure it must be an absolute pleasure for you to see me again, at the very least. I realised, looking back on the previous videos I've made, I have succeeded in making just one video in every library, in every house I've lived in for about the last 5 years. So I'm hoping that things should be a little bit more regular now. I'm in the final stint of studying for my PhD. I've got about 5 months left. And frankly, I'm looking for something to distract me now that I have fewer things to distract me with other than having to focus on finishing it. So I'm afraid I'm going to, like most people, scream into the empty void that is the internet in the vague hope that someone might hear me. I've moved house recently, so I'm afraid you won't be seeing, well, hopefully, unless something goes drastically wrong, you won't be seeing any more new libraries now. This is it. Because my fiance and I have bought this house, so barring an act of God or Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin's continuous attempt to completely fuck the world, this is us for the next 39 years and 10 months, or however long we technically have left on the mortgage contract. Absolutely ridiculous, but not the subject of this video. For those of you hoping for something a little bit more philosophical, I'm afraid that isn't going to be the focus of this, in as much as you may have subtly been able to guess from the title of the video, Introduction. It's merely going to be sort of outlining what I'm thinking my plan of approach is going to be. Whether or not this ends up being what happens is entirely different matter. If you can hear a sort of humming in the background, that's my laptop. I'm very bad with technology, and so I've been attempting to rig up a system using OBS, which enables me to do a number of different things. So, for example, I can cut to this shot on my laptop, which means there won't be any editing involved at all. So there will be pauses, ums and ahs and so on and so forth, because I can't be asked to write a script either. So this is what you're going to be putting up with, which I think in its own ways it's quite nice, really, isn't it? You get to see the raw, the unpolished reality of life. But there we go. It also means I can do things like this. I could show you a map of pre-Socratic philosophers. This is a map, of course, of where they're from, as opposed to the philosophers themselves. Philosophers don't have a habit of turning into land masses every now and again, but you know, that's how it works, which I think is quite fun, personally. It does, however, mean it takes the sound from my laptop here, and my laptop is a tremendously old MacBook Air now that's got me through 5 years of a PhD and a year of my master's year, and some of my undergraduates here as well. So it's seen the world. It's seen the world, my little laptop. But hopefully it'll sort of limp through these things. I'm going to go back to the wide shot view, I think, because I prefer that one. And that way you get to look at all of the books behind me as well, in case I'm boring you. Although presumably, of course, you will have just logged off if it's that boring. The general approach really is going to be starting with the earliest ancient philosophers, in heavily inverted commas, so the Milesians, which will be what our next video focuses on, and then really sort of working our way through pretty much up to where I stop caring, which is... Where do I stop caring? It's a good question. Probably sometime in the 3rd or 4th century CE, Common Era. I was going to say AD then. I was resorting to my Christian upbringing. Oh, There we go. So Common Era. So we're covering about 900 years probably of thought, which isn't bad, all things considered. And then who knows, we might talk about other things as well. We might even do some modern philosophy videos. Because I do strangely have an interest in that as well. So broadly speaking, we'll be starting with the Milesians. I've written some notes down here. Then we'll be looking at people like Heraclitus, Parmenides, the Atomists, the Sophists, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, the Cynics, Stoics, Epicureanism, a bit of Marcus Aurelius probably, Philodemus, all that sort of good stuff. Whether or not this will actually come to fruition is a different matter, but we'll give it a go. And we'll try and look through some source material to support these sorts of things rather than me just pulling things out of my arse, although I'm sure there's a place for that on the internet somewhere. Yeah, so that's the idea. I mean, let me know in the comments, all 12 of you that will presumably watch this, but you know, it doesn't matter. If one person watches this and finds it vaguely useful, not necessarily this video, it's a fever dream at best, let's be honest, lads. You know, but if one watches another one of the philosophy videos and finds it useful, then that's all well and good. So that there has been a little bit of philosophy in this video, I thought I might read, where is it? One of the first aphoristic essay by EM Cioran from his A Short History of Decay. He was a Hungarian writer in the 20th century. Broadly speaking, all right, spent much of his life in Paris, went a little bit fascist when Hungary went a little bit fascist. Was fascist, or was it? Cioran spent much of his life in France, except for a brief period during the Second World War when he returned to Bucharest and spoke out in favour of the ferocious Iron Guard rulers of Romania, an act he later bitterly regretted. Depending on when that is, I don't really know much about Hungarian history, I'm afraid. So, who knows? Probably communist, maybe? Iron Guard, maybe, does it go fascist and then goes communist again? I don't know. Sort of that delicious land that could be anywhere in the Grand Budapest Hotel, which is my favourite film. Anyway, genealogy of fanaticism. In itself, every idea is neutral, or should be. But man animates ideas, projects his flames and flaws into them, impure, transformed into beliefs. Ideas take their place in time, take shape as events. The trajectory is complete from logic to epilepsy. Whence the birth of ideologies, doctrines, deadly games. Idolaters by instinct, we convert the objects of our dreams and our interests into the unconditional. History is nothing but a procession of false absolutes, a series of temples raised to pretexts, a degradation of the mind before the improbable. Even when he turns from religion, man remains subject to it, depleting himself to create fake gods. He then feverishly adopts them. His need for fiction, for mythology, triumphs over evidence and absurdity alike. His power to adore is responsible for all his crimes. A man who loves a god unduly forces other men to love his god, eager to exterminate them if they refuse. There is no form of intolerance, of proselytism, or ideological intransience which fails to reveal the bestial substratum of enthusiasm. This is originally written in French, and I feel tremendously sorry for Richard Howard, who had to translate this, because it's beautifully written and it's beautifully translated, but goodness me, some of the words he chooses to use, I can imagine it's even worse in French. Once man loses his faculty of indifference, he becomes a potential murderer. Once he transforms his idea into a god, the consequences are incalculable. We kill only in the name of a god or of his counterfeits. The excesses provoked by the goddess reason, by the concept of nation, class, or race, are akin to those of the Inquisition or of the Reformation. The ages of fervour abound in bloody exploits. A Saint Teresa could only be the contemporary of the auto da fe, a Luther of the repression of the peasants' revolt. In every mystic outburst, the moans of victims parallel the moans of ecstasy. Scaffolds, dungeons, jails flourish only in the shadow of a faith, of that need to believe what has infested the mind infested the mind forever. The devil places beside the man who owns a truth his truth. We are unfair to a Nero, a Tiberius. It is not they who invented the concept heretic. They were only degenerate dreamers who happened to be entertained by massacres. The real criminals are men who establish an orthodoxy on the religious or political level, men who distinguish between the faithful and the schismatic. When we refuse to admit the interchangeable character of ideas, blood flows, firm resolves draw the dagger, fiery eyes presage slaughter. No wavering mind infected with Hamletism was ever pernicious. What a sentence. No wavering mind infected with Hamletism was ever pernicious. Hamletism, of course, being basically a made-up idea, but the sort of, wavering minds, the indecisiveness which you experience if you have to sit through, as I have, bad performances of Hamlet. Hamlet is an indecisive character, but Hamlet done badly is even more indecisive. It was ever pernicious. The principle of evil lies in the will's tension, in the incapacity for quietism, in the Promethean megalomania of a race that bursts with ideals, that explodes with its convictions, and that in return for having forsaken doubt and sloth, vices nobler than all its virtues, has taken the path to perdition into history, that indecent alloy of banality and apocalypse. Here certitudes abound. Suppress them. Best of all, suppress their consequences, and you recover paradise. What is the fall but the pursuit of a truth and the reassurance you have found it, the passion for a dogma, domicile within a dogma? The result is fanaticism, fundamental defect which gives man the craving for effectiveness, for prophecy, for terror. A lyrical leprosy by which he contaminates souls, subdues them, crushes or exalts them. Only the sceptics or idlers escape because they propose nothing, because they, humanity's true benefactors, undermine fanaticism's purpose, analyse its frenzy. I feel safer with a pyro, which is a cynic, which realistically so is Cioran as well, a nihilistic cynic, but then that's sort of a tautology. I feel safer with a pyro than with a St. Paul, for a jesting wisdom is gentler than an unbridled sanctity. In the fervent mind you always find the camouflaged beast of prey. No protection is adequate against the claws of a prophet. Once he raises his voice, whether in the name of heaven, of the city, or some other excuse, away with you. Satire of your solitude, he will not forgive you your living on the wrong side of his truths and his transports. He wants you to share his hysteria, his fullness. He wants to impose it on you and thereby to disfigure you. A human being possessed by a belief and not eager to pass it on to others is a phenomena alien to the earth, where our mania for salvation makes life unbreathable. Look around you. Everywhere specters preaching. Each institution translates a mission. City halls have their absolute, even as the temples, officialdom with its rules, and metaphysics designed for monkeys. Everyone trying to remember everyone's life, even beggars, even the incurable aspire to it. The sidewalks and hospitals of the world overflow with reformers. The longing to become a source of events affects each man like a mental disorder or a desired malediction. Society, an inferno of survivors. What Diogenes, we've got a cat now as well. What Diogenes was looking for with his lantern was an indifferent man. It is enough for me to hear someone talk sincerely about ideals, about the future, about philosophy, to hear him say we with a certain inflection of insurance, to hear him invoke others and regard himself as their interpreter, for me to consider him my enemy. I see in him a tyrant maniac, an approximate executioner, quite as detestable as the first-rate tyrants, the first-rate executioners. Every faith practices some form of terror, all the more dreadful when the pure are its agents. We mistrust the swindler, the trickster, the conman, yet to them we can impute none of history's great convulsions. Believing in nothing, it is not they who rummage in your hearts or your ulterior motives. They leave you to your apathy, to your despair, or to your uselessness. To them humanity owes the few moments of prosperity it has known. It is they who save the peoples from fanatics torture and idealists destroy. From people whom fanatics torture and idealists destroy. Doctrineless, they have only whims and interests, accommodating vices as 1,000 times more endurable than the ravages provoked by principal despotism. For all of life's evils come from a conception of life. An accomplished politician should search out the ancient sophists and take lessons in oratory and in corruption, whereas the fanatic is incorruptible. If he kills for an idea, he can just as well get himself killed for one. In either case, tyrant or martyr, he is a monster. No human beings are more dangerous than those who have suffered for a belief. The great persecutors are recruited among the martyrs, not quite beheaded. Far from diminishing the appetite for power, suffering exasperates it. Hence, the mind feels more comfortable in the society of a braggart than in that of a martyr, and nothing is more repugnant to it than the spectacle of dying for an idea. Revolted by the sublime and by carnage, the mind's dream of a provincial ennui on the scale of the universe, of a history whose stagnation would be so great that doubt would take on the lineaments of an event and hope a calamity. Thank you, Oscar. You really are in the way somewhat, but there we go. So that was that. Not necessarily something I completely subscribe to, but certainly something to think about. We might dive into them a little bit more. If you want to read some of it, I would recommend it. It's not, the whole book itself isn't that long, although it's in that sort of style, so you do have to really be awake to read it. I mean, you have to be awake to read anything, but you know what I mean. I tried reading it when I was tired after work once, when I first bought the book, and it wasn't going in, but I'm in a better mood today, and I'm rested, so, you know. There we go. So hopefully there'll be another video coming up fairly soon about the Milesians. That will be more sort of structured in the style of a lecture or a seminar or a talk in that sort of way. We'll have some text to look at. If you're wanting to try and get ahead in terms of doing some reading for it, the Oxford World Classics, Robin Waterfield's The First Philosophers is what it's called. I would go and get the book, it's over there somewhere, but I now have a cat on my lap, and as we all know, the standard rules are when you're being sat on by a cat, you're not actually legally allowed to move. Yes, easily available on the internet somewhere, but I'll be having screenshots of it up to talk about different quotes from it as well, so it's not the end of the world if you don't have it. I'll see you in my next video, hopefully, and probably Oscar will too, because he'll get a touch or a taste for the limelight now. But anyway, yeah, cheery bye, really. But I hope you're well, and I hope you stay well.